Hi everyone, my name is Jason Jordan and I serve as the General Manager for Republic Services, the recycling and garbage service partner for many of your cities. On behalf of my company, I would like to personally thank you for the opportunity to introduce this very important breakout session. We will spend time learning from some amazing leaders on how they engage their diverse communities. Now for me, this topic is important both on a personal level, but also in alignment with the culture of Republic Services. You see, as an employer of people from all backgrounds, we're committed to creating an environment where all of our employees can come to work, feel safe, and be at their best. We continue to make intentional and clear actions to team members to help understand what an inclusive and diverse culture looks like, and how we can all champion these efforts. Now, we do this in many ways, some of which include having established business resource groups such as the Black Employee Network, Women of Republic, and Valor, which is Veterans Advocacy, Learning, Outreach, and Recruiting. These employee-led groups are formed around common communities of interest where our people are encouraged to contribute their unique insight to assist in solving complex industry and business challenges. We have also established what we call the Mosaic Council, which is the mission of supporting an inclusive culture. This council has been embraced and led from the very top leaders of our company. In fact, our CEO, Don Slager, describes Mosaic as a way that this company can talk about diversity in a positive, comfortable, and constructive way, and for something for us to really rally behind. We're going to be stronger and better as a company when we have more diverse leadership and inclusive team to create better and new ideas on how we go to market. Mosaic is absolutely the right thing to do for our business, and it just isn't a flavor of the month, but it's one of our core missions. Through this council, our company has developed a roadmap that aligns with our commitment of an inclusive, safe, and embracing culture for our employees. We stand firm in our belief that these commitments and continued efforts around engaging our employees to fully understand, embrace, and have the power of diversity and actively and intentionally creating an environment in which all individuals are welcomed and valued make us a better community partner for those cities we serve. This session represents that same belief, and we're very proud and honored to be part of this journey with you. So from our Republic Services family to you, please enjoy this session. Thank you very much.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the panel discussion on how to engage diverse leaders in your community. We have a wonderful panel here today. My name is Beach Pace. I'm a city councilor in Hillsborough, and I am your moderator for today. I will have each of the councilors introduce themselves and tell a little bit about themselves before we get into the questions. So let's start with Councillor Herrera.
Good morning, and thank you for this opportunity. My name is Roland Herrera. I'm a councilor at City of Kaiser, second-term councilor, senior councilor, and I've lived in Kaiser for 42 years. Been quite involved with my community, and I am glad to be here.
Wonderful, thank you. Councilor Leung.
Hi, everybody. It's great to see you all. My name is Jackie Leung. I'm a city councilor in Salem. I have been a city councilor for 2 years now. Before joining the council, I was heavily involved with the Salem Human Rights Commission and the Mayor's International Council. It's great to be here.
Wonderful, thank you. Councilor Junkins.
Hi, thank you very much, Councilor Pace, and good day to everybody. It's great to see these beautiful faces. My name's Ed Junkins. I'm a pediatrician and an emergency physician. My preferred pronouns are he, him, his. I'm the Senior Associate Dean at the Western University of Health Sciences in Lebanon, Oregon. And I represent Ward 8 in Corvallis on the City Council. I'm also the Vice Chair of the Universal Task Force on Universal Health here in Oregon, appointed by the Governor.
Wonderful, thank you. Community Engagement Coordinator, Betsy Rodriguez-Roof.
Hello, thank you very much, Councilor Pace. My name is Betsy Rodriguez-Roof, and I work for the City of Tualatin. I've been there for 3 years. Before that, I was at the City of Tigard for 5 years, and before that, I was at the City of Salem. So it's a pleasure to be here with everybody.
Wonderful, thank you. And Councilor Barron.
Hey, good morning, everyone. My name is Councilor Barron. I am a councilor in my first term here in Hermiston, Oregon. I'm a special education teacher here at the Hermiston School District. Been here for about 5 years. Really love the diversity of this community and really has embraced everything about it. So I'm happy to be here and thank you for the opportunity.
Wonderful. Thank you, Councilor Barron. Let's get into the questions. And so the first question is, what steps has your city taken to promote diversity in your community? And let's see, let's start with Councilor Junkins.
Gracias. So my First, I wanted to thank the City of Corvallis for the intentional effort that it has put into diversity and the promotion of diversity in my community. There are several areas, and I'll just speak very quickly about 4 of them. The first is in strategic planning. Our strategic visioning in Corvallis stretches to 2040, which allows the strategic operating plan to really outlive the current members of the council as well as city staff. So to establish priorities is important. That work has a specific focus area for engage and support directly affecting communities of color and other diversity initiatives. Number 2, we have advisory boards, and our advisory boards, including the Community Involvement and Diversity Advisory Board, as well as the King Legacy Advisory Board, are designed specifically to impact diversity initiatives in Corvallis and are heavily represented by various different constituents throughout the communities of color. Next, we have a very new initiative called the Bias Response Initiative, which just this past June, our city council unanimously voted for $150,000 to be put towards an FTE as well as programming to begin to address bias response in Corvallis with partnership with Oregon State, as well as Benton County and the 509 Corvallis School District. Also, our city manager is working with area cities, Albany and Philomath, along with this intergovernmental agreement that we're working towards. And then lastly, through partnership with local NAACP, allows us to really do some grassroots activities and events. So 4 different things that our community is really working on to promote diversity in Corvallis. Thank you for asking the question, Councillor.
Absolutely, sure. I'd also love to hear from you, Betsy, as a community engagement coordinator. What have you been doing?
Thank you very much. Well, thinking of this question, it was hard to pick the top 3 things that we've been doing, because a huge testament to the city of Tualatin is that what we initially did, well, they created my role as community engagement coordinator 3 years ago, with a focus on diversity and cultivating diversity in the city within our organization. But the biggest testament to our organization is that we embarked on the journey. We decided to, not all of us are experts, but on a staff level, we decided, we're gonna start this. We put a big focus on cultivating diversity within our organization. And a really important thing that I think has led to a lot of our successes in the city of Tualatin is that we not only embarked on the journey externally within the community, is we also focused within the organization internally, doing the work, having difficult conversations at times, and getting everybody on board. Well, not everybody, because you don't always get everybody on board, but finding your allies, your support, creating support within the organization, and really just trying to apply a diversity lens to all of our projects and everything that we do. So I'm so proud of our organization. The big thing is supporting my role as this work. This work can be challenging. It's very fulfilling, and I'm very personally passionate about it. But it provides, it brings up a lot of challenges. And I think providing support, for my role and for folks that are doing this work in the organization has really just provided so much that has led to success within our organization. And so we also have a team, the diversity task force team, that is from the community. So it's made up of the community, and we do the meetings in Spanish. It's all, I speak Spanish, so we do it all in Spanish. And so we really have just tried to cultivate that relationship and provide a voice to our community. So thank you for the question.
Absolutely. I'd also like to ask Councillor Herrera if he would like to comment on this.
One of the things that Councillor Junkins talked about is relationships with local communities of color or organizations of color. As one of the founders of LAC, which is the Latino Action Committee, we have been actively working with the city to bring in Latinos into the city hall. And, because as I used to say, City Hall has always had a negative connotation for Latinos in my community, because I used to say that that's where they go to pay their tickets and get their water turned back on, which is actually true. But anyway, we have a more positive thing going on with LAC doing scholarships for 20 Latino students in the area. We've done a lot of things this year, including everything is bilingual. Our city council meetings are finally broadcast this year in Spanish. All our meetings are also broadcast in Spanish. So we're reaching out to the Latino community. While we're only 25% here in Kaiser and growing, we are reaching out in different aspects. I do leadership organizations with 4th and 5th grade. I've been a mentor at school district for 35 years. And that's one of the things we do. I bring in kids in the community from our Title I schools to City Hall and learn about city government. We've reached out in other aspects as far as the older community of Latinos. When I first got elected, I got my good friend, police chief, to go to one of our churches, and we had 74 people show up, Latinos, and our police chief had a nice discussion, a round table. We had a great time meeting and introducing them. So we're breaking a lot of barriers. Everybody talked about reaching out to folks, and I really feel like we have been behind. We're just now getting a resolution for inclusive and equity and inclusion. As a council goals, I put it every year to make that one of our priorities. And I'm kind of disappointed that we haven't gotten to where we want to go, where I want to go, but you have to have folks with a mindset that will actually do what we want to do. The challenges we'll talk about later, but that's my part. I appreciate this opportunity also.
Absolutely. And I think mindset is where it all starts, right? So let's move on to question number 2. I'd love to know the largest challenge you have in engaging diverse leaders in your community and what step you or your city has taken to address these challenges. Councillor Leung, would you like to comment on this?
Yes, thank you, Councillor Page. So several things that I perceive to be a challenge is like one of the biggest ones is knowing who we are. Like, do people actually know that we're in office? That continues to be one of the big challenges, especially now that we are in a different space, like COVID-19, that kind of really separates us even more. Another thing that I think we were trying to do, but at the same time, how does it look like now moving forward, is getting out into the community and meeting with our community members. For example, in the past, when I would attend a public community event, I would go out there, but I'm not wearing a sign that says I'm a city councilor because I'm not trying to draw that kind of attention to me. My goal is to get out there and talk to people and introduce myself when I meet with people one-on-one. Another big area that I think is a big barrier is accessibility. You know, there are community members who speak different languages or require different resources to communicate. Are we providing those resources to ensure that there are opportunities to communicate? And now that we have moved, for example, to a virtual meeting format, not everybody has access to that technology or access to the internet.
I love that you talked about access, Councillor Herrera. You mentioned it as well when you're talking about getting all your city council meetings translated. I love that idea. Councillor Barron, would you like to comment on the largest challenge you have engaging diverse leaders?
Absolutely. You know, first and foremost, I apologize if the lights go off in the background. I'm actually here at school, and so we have these automatic lights that come on and off. Appreciate the question, though. I'd have to agree with Councillor Luong and Councillor Herrera in terms of accessibility. That time and time again is our biggest challenge, and especially in the COVID era and what have you, it's been exposed even more the fact that there's so many disparities in the services that we receive, and it becomes really difficult. It becomes difficult, like Councillor Herrera was saying, to have that positive momentum keep going forward, because it does take a group. It does take multiple people coming together. It's never just one person. And so as honored as I am to be here with all of you, I know that even the feats that we've accomplished in Hermiston haven't been done just by one person alone. It's been done by community members putting everything together, putting their efforts in. And to go beyond that, I think another part that makes it difficult is having a legitimate space for people of color to be heard. Sometimes we do have organizations or formations or branches or alliances. However, it's hard to maintain that momentum or to have that legitimacy in that organization or in that group. It's really great. On the city level, we have the Hermiston Hispanic Advisory Committee, and they provide recommendations on things to the city council, on things that are going on in the city, inside information on what people of color are experiencing. I think that still it ends up being the hardest part, is having a place for people of color, a legitimate space where they can have their legitimate voices heard, and accessibility as well.
Thank you for bringing that up, especially about the legitimate piece. And I know, Councillor Junkins, this is also very important to you as well. I can see you chomping at the bit. You want to comment as well. Go for it, man.
Yeah, thank you very much, Councillor Pace. I would like to reflect on what my colleagues, Councillor Luong and Councillor Baron, said about who we are and access. I've been doing diversity work in the medical field and in higher education for decades, and the first barrier that I have seen in that space, as well as the civic space, is feeling invited. And sometimes it's just a matter of there are groups that simply don't feel invited. This is not for them. And I believe that is one of the enduring challenges. I call this 1950s stuff. We're better than being in the 1950s. We need to extend that invitation, but sometimes that's what we need, is to just simply say, we are inviting you. The second that I hear, and I hear my colleagues refer to this same thought, is hearing or seeing your language, or meeting people of color or diverse leaders where they are. And seeing your language, it might be a translation, but it also could be, gender neutral commentary, or what policies say. Corvallis just is today, we're in our meeting, we're reviewing policies, and we're okay. Really the advancement of some language that is exclusive for the for those people in the community regarding gender identification. And then seeing civil work or civic work that's relevant to people of color, diverse communities. Is what the city's doing relevant for me? And are there tangible outcomes or results that are going to make my community better? And is it relevant to my community? And sometimes part of the challenge, I respect Councillor Luong's comment about not wanting to go out wearing a badge saying, I'm a city councillor, but I need to be out talking to constituents, and I need to find out what's relevant to people of color, relevant to my constituents, so that I can represent that at the table. And then lastly, believing that results are even possible. A lot of times people of color don't simply have the time to engage in civic work, but absolutely will do it if they believe that those results are going to advance, their communities. And that, I think, is an important barrier to getting the work done. So again, thank you, Councillor Pace, for letting me have the floor for a short time.
Absolutely. And there is something about seeing yourself reflected or hearing your language. I remember I'm a veteran. When I was in the Army, it took 4 years before I saw a female general. Before then, it was just impossible. The concept of that possibility didn't exist, right? And I can only imagine what it's like when somebody hears their language spoken or sees something from their culture represented. It's a feeling of belonging, and you have a chance and you feel heard. And I think that's a huge piece. Betsy, as a community engagement coordinator, I'm sure this has come up for you too, imagine.
Oh yeah, for sure. Thank you. Definitely, we have faced many challenges, but one of the biggest ones I think right now during COVID era is, everybody's competing. We're all on Zoom. We're all competing for people's time, and we have really made efforts to. I'm so grateful that we had done a lot of work before pre-COVID. So when this happened, we have been able to maintain and still those relationships that we had made before. And what's really important, or one of the biggest challenges, was really earning people's trust. People know if you're sincerely trying to engage them and get their feedback, or if you're just trying to use them as a checkbox. People know that and they can tell. And there's been times that we haven't gone about it the right way, and we've lost some folks, and we've worked to try to get them back. But the biggest challenge is to be sincere when you are engaging folks. Get to know them. We've really put efforts into trying to find those community leaders and then cultivate relationships with them. I've personally gone and had meetings at people's living rooms and getting to know them. And then the benefits to that is that later when something happens, a project comes up, we don't just go, hey, everybody, Latino community, we need your feedback. We know, because we've created those relationships, like we know who is interested in traffic, who's interested, what community leader is interested in helping us with festivals. Like we already have built those relationships. So which is, like I said, I'm so grateful that we were able to do that. That's really helped us through this time.
Right. And when you call on them, that they know you're calling on them because you have a relationship, not because it's not a transactional thing. It's something here, right?
Exactly.
I would imagine.
Yeah.
Councillor Herrera.
I just want to exactly, Betsy, Miss Roof, you're exactly right about relationships. That's everything. But one of my challenges has been by having folks, council leadership in our city buy into this, and understand the backgrounds of other communities and what their preferences are, what issues are important to them, because folks don't know unless we ask. And we have to, like Councilor Duncan says, they have to feel like they care about them. They're welcomed. My challenge has been, I've been working on putting. We have 4 folks of color on our committees in our city, and I recruited every one of them because there's nobody. There's no outreach that we have to work on that, because like I say, it starts with our council and our leadership. They have to buy into this outreach, and they have to buy into inclusion and equity. And as hard as it is, I've been harping on it for many years, and we're still working on it. We got ways to go, but it's a challenge in my community.
Yeah. And I think it's a challenge. I mean, we're having this conversation because it is a challenge, not only in your community, but in all of our communities. We're trying to get better at it. The next thing I'd love to ask is, do you have any easy to replicate programs that you've put in place that you've seen make a difference? Councillor Leon?
So in the time of COVID, it's been a little bit more challenging in terms of how we're going to be able to reach out to people. So something that I've started doing is like, I call them power hours, but they could be like a meet and greet. So it just depends on what your favorite terminology is. And before the wildfires, we were meeting in small groups, masks on, social distancing at a park. And we also provided masks to people who didn't have one with them. And we're also now, especially when the fires took over, we were doing occasional meetings online. So whether it's Zoom or Hangouts or Skype, any ways to sort of engage with folks. Another one has been social media, making sure that we're utilizing our social media platforms and that we are doing a combination of sharing information, creating videos, as well as doing both a combination of recorded video and live videos to try and engage with folks in different ways. I mean, it's been a new challenge, like trying to figure out like how are we communicating with folks, but also making sure that there's ways to get the information out there.
Yeah, and I think that's, one of the, yeah, you just got a thumbs up from Councillor Herrera. Councillor Barron, did you have any programs that are working and you feel could be replicated?
Yeah, and it's kind of what Councillor Junkin also stated. I think one of the should be kind of more universal things, especially with diverse communities, would be to have a board, a committee of some kind of at your city level. Like I said, for Hermiston, we have the Hispanic Advisory Committee, and they make a lot of recommendations to the city council on things that are relevant in our Hispanic community. And on top of that, if there are issues that do come up to council that we might need maybe a different lens in from everyone in our community, then getting it referred to Hispanic Advisory Committee is probably one of the best ways that we've found some good feedback. But at the same time, we understand understand it, it's still a challenge in order to get everyone's feedback, especially in these COVID times. Like Councillor Luong said, these COVID times have exacerbated, the accessibility issues that we already have today. And so I think one of the methods of communication that still actually really works and very much old school is radio. Tapping into radio is probably one of the easiest ways, especially in our community. We have a lot of agricultural labor, a lot of food processing plants. A lot of our community is in touch with the radio. And so sometimes it's not really the most up to date, or let's just say like maybe state of the art type of ways to communicate with people. Sometimes it's simplicity at its best. And radio we found is still a method that's very strong, especially amongst our Latino community.
I love that. And the fact that it's accessible, anybody can get to it. You can get anybody can get their hands on a little radio. I love that. Betsy, I know that you had Viva Tualatin almost a year ago, and I think that was your first annual. And
Yeah.
while not COVID proof, that was a program that brought everybody together. So I wanted to know if you want to share any programs that you're working on.
Oh, thank you so much for asking about Viva. That is like my favorite thing we've ever done. It was so wonderful. It was last year was the very first event that we held. It was called Viva Tualatin. It was a celebration of arts and culture. It was just a very successful, beautiful festival where we just celebrated diversity in our city. I had so many people come up to me and tell me, oh, I've lived here for 25 years and I've never seen this type of celebration, and it makes me feel like I belong. There were so many just different, we celebrated different aspects of culture in our city, and it was wonderful. And even though I love festivals, and that's like one of my favorite things to do, what happened behind the scenes was even more impactful, I believe, for the communities. We built so many relationships. We relied upon our diversity task force to, we checked with them on cultural appropriation and wanted them to have ownership, and they felt so special and involved, and it was represented in the outcome, like the decorations, everything. It was just like such a wonderful event, and everybody, all our departments participated. The police department was there. All our departments had a booth, and they engaged with folks. Afterwards, the police came up to me and they said, "Oh, we're always at events, and usually people don't come that much to our booth." And they had so many people come up to them and talk to them, and it was just such a wonderful relationship building event. So thank you for asking. You guys could check it out. It's online, Viva Tualatin. Next year it'll be on.
Awesome. I'd now like to move on to the next question. And as we're hearing this, hearing your comments and your experiences, I think a natural question is, well, what can I do? What could somebody listening in take with them and take back to their communities? And if you're on this panel discussion and listening to this, you're already in the mindset, right? Because we were talking about that earlier. But I'd love to know what 2 or 3 things a city could do to increase its engagement among diverse community members. And I hear this a lot, to be honest with you. It's like, well, we invite them and they don't come. And that's not okay. And I'd love to hear from all of you what you think, what you would recommend, or what you'd love to encourage people to engage with as far as bringing diverse community members in. We'll start with Councillor Barron.
Well, there's a lot of avenues to go with this one, and
We don't have enough time.
there's a lot. Well, we can go on forever. No, I understand, but I think probably the simplest and easier to go is making the community reflect the diversity that it has. There's a school bell, but I think even the school would probably be a really good example. We've had schools here that have been named after I guess landscapes and things like that. So all of our schools are landscape themed. And one of the things, after a lot of community feedback and a lot of community discussion that we kind of brought up at the council level, was like, well, maybe this is a great opportunity for our community, or our community to reflect, our schools to reflect, you know, the diversity that we actually have. And in that, we still kept it into the landscaping theme, but we decided to name it in Spanish. So the school is actually named in Spanish. And honestly, it is kind of, it feels beautiful. Just like we've said before, sometimes when people speak in your own language, you just kind of feel differently about that. And, you know, it gives a lot of our community a lot of hope, because it really feels that, hey, like, my community does actually look like me. And that encourages more participation, because when people feel like you can actually make a difference and your community starts to look like you and reflect more like you, then it just encourages more people of color, more diverse people to actually continue to work. And so I would say, you know, really trying, especially as counselors, try to make a push to really have your city reflect who you really are in all aspects.
Excellent, thank you. And Councillor Barron, I know that you may have to step off early to get to class because I know you're teaching, so we understand that. Councillor Leung, would you like to comment on the 2 or 3 things that you could recommend for engagement?
Yes, of course. Well, echoing Councilor Barron would be the first one, but some other ways for engagement. One way might be if through perhaps a partnership with local organizations, like, are we able to provide continuous civic engagement training that would ensure that people would be able to get involved either with if they were interested in a board, commission, or want to run for office now or in the future. Another possibility, kind of echoing again, it's like instead of inviting people to come to us, we go to where they are, go to community events, opportunities, even ones that, like, if we hear about within the community, and see if there's a way for us to engage, whether it's as an invited guest or if we're just on a fly on the wall, but just like ways for us to be out there in the community. Another consideration is whether or not the city might be able to hire diversity and inclusion equity coordinators that might be able to help bring in some of those groups in another way to engage with us.
Wonderful. Thanks for all of those. And I love the commissions and committees. That's a great way to step in and learn more about what's going on in your community. Councillor Herrera.
Yes, you know, everything that Councilor Barron and Leung said have been excellent. And also Betsy's talking about the celebrations. And we need to take advantage of cultural events and celebrations like Cinco de Mayo or September 16th. And the city should be aware of these things. And the one thing I've always said is that we have to break the habit that English is the only language of government. It's not. And I really believe our reader board is English and Spanish now. And it took us some time to do this. Also, there's one thing that I've always pushed for, and that's, you know, folks, I believe in having like a daycare or something for folks to help folks attend meetings. In our culture, also we have to accommodate for varied work schedules. You know, folks, sometimes a guy comes home at night and mom has to leave to the work at the burger place or whatever. And folks don't think of these things, but they are very important. Accessibility, making people feel like they're really welcomed and respected. I've been working on that. One of the things we did, we formed LAC, the Latino Action Committee, and we partnership with the city. We bring people in for meetings at City Hall, and things have been going in the right direction as far as that goes. And our broadcasting in Spanish has been great, but we have to be aware of who our community is. And like Councilor Barron says, we should reflect the people that we serve.
All the people.
I really believe that. So that's my 2 cents on that. But I really believe accessibility for folks that have different schedules, that need a daycare, those type of things. You know, in our culture, if you want to get people to a meeting, you got food or some kind of taking care of the kids. You know, and people got to get used to that, because that's the reality of where we're going. And like George Lopez says, we ain't going nowhere. It's going to grow. The diversity is here to stay, and you have to buy into that and have that mindset, like we all talk about. By the way, thank you very much, Councilor Pace, right? Because this is a great opportunity for all of us, and being with this group panel is amazing. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Yeah. With about 4 minutes left, I'd love to hear from the Community Engagement Coordinator, Betsy, and then from Councilor Junkins to close us out. So Betsy, what are your recommendations?
Thank you. And yes, thank you. It's been such an honor to be here with everyone and talking about this very important topic. So thank you for everyone who chose this session. Yeah, there's so much to that, but I think the biggest thing that we have really worked on is just to get out of that mentality of we have an open house in the same place we've always had it, at the same time we've always had it, and marketed the same way we've always done it. And it's like, you know, people are changing, times are changing. It's like you have to get out of that old school mentality of like, as other people touched on, you go to their space, find out where your community meets, where are their popular spots, you know, where do they have their, you know, their parties, you know, who are those leaders, and get in touch with them and go to their spaces. And that has been really successful for us because we have gone, like I said, I've had meetings in somebody's living room and I've gotten some awesome food out of it. So, so, you know, you just have to be open to do things differently. Find those community groups that are already established, already meeting. There was a group that we connected with through Viva, this women's group that we're meeting. They were actually meeting in one of our facilities, and they didn't even know like that was actually a city facility. They didn't, like, there was no. So we really worked hard to cultivate that, and we ended up. They let us come in and be on their agenda and give updates. So, and it's been so wonderful, just like to be willing to be flexible, do things differently, and it'll be lots of benefits.
Right, and you went to them. I love it. Councillor Junkins.
Yeah, hi, thank you. First of all, thank you, Councillor Pace, for organizing this, and to the staff from League of Oregon Cities. This has really been a terrific panel, great experience. I have a great deal of respect for my colleague councillors also on the panel, from whom I've learned a great deal. I love the radio idea. What a way to increase accessibility to communities that we haven't been able to reach. So my thoughts have straddled much of, or will straddle much of, what has already been said. But first I want to start with a partnership. Both councillors Barron and Leong talked about partnerships. Money is the way that people in the government say it can't be done. So we were told you can't have a biased response FTE because we don't have the money. And then when we talked to 509J School District and Benton Community, or Benton County, and some of the others, it turns out that if we could partner, we can make it happen. And in fact, that's a better way to do this. And now we're starting to pull in other cities because that work needs to be done. And you can bring in people despite the money through partnerships. The other thing about partnerships is that the hotspot areas, right now we have Black Lives Matter and social unrest, and a partnership between the NAACP and the police department is a very vibrant and important partnership to engage this kind of work. The next thing I want to quickly talk about is, as Betsy just said, festivals and events that we always did the same way. We've always done it this way. It's time to reimagine them. As Councillor Herrera just said, we are moving on. And things aren't going to change. So it's time to reimagine how we do things, bring people to the table that can bring fresh new ideas that are relevant to others. And then lastly, as far as the work that's done is set by the agenda and the leaders of the city, the mayor, the council president, the city manager. And this group of people need the lens, the DEI lens, in order to put relevant topics and relevant agenda items, such as advancing language of policy, such as funding and resourcing these initiatives. Until that changes, then councils such as ours will continue to do work that's not relevant to people in the city and that's not represented, and you'll continue to disengage entire groups. So again, I wanted to thank the panel, thank the League of Oregon Cities, and thank you, Councillor Pace, for facilitating this beautiful discussion. Again, beautiful faces I'm looking at.
Awesome. Thanks to all the panelists. And I know, Councillor Barron, you've been struggling with the light, but frankly, I think it is very representative of the topic, trayendo la luz, bringing the light. And that is what we're doing. Thank you all for your comments, for taking the time. Thanks to the LOC for making this possible. And thanks to all of you who are listening. We really appreciate you taking the time to do that. Thank you all.